Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful day. We're back again on another Monday with this Fanatics Weekly Review. Finally got it right there. As always, going through the top 100 soccer auctions on the Fanatics site this week. If you enjoy these weeklies, do make sure to leave a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. Helps me, helps the channel. But with that said, let's go ahead and get on over there. So we are on over here this week, starting at $100, a little bit more full of an auction this week since it's not a holiday weekend. So hopefully that had helped. As we go along and get started here, we have a João Felix Gold out of 50 going for under $100. Haven't seen that in a while, not that I've been looking, but obviously back in the day, João Felix was quite the prospect, and this would have been quite the card. Still gets, somewhat of a decent price, but not all that impressive, especially considering right next to it, you have a Weston McKennie auto and an Arda Güler out of $299. The Weston McKennie with the least of the watchers. I felt like a lot of the USMNT stuff in this auction got a pretty good price. There were a lot of things I had my eye on that I just didn't go after because none of it felt intriguing enough to me. I feel like I see better prices on eBay most of the time, which I was fairly surprised about because as you can see here, 8 watchers isn't all that many. The Arda Güler next to it goes for $100. Above that in this row, we have a Mega Cracks Messi number 386 out of the 2006 Mega Cracks set. This in a PSA 9 goes for $100. I thought that was kind of light. A lot of these you'll see go for $150 at times, maybe $200 on a best offer, so that could be a good flip if you're into that type of stuff. We have a Guardiola PSA 10 from the 96 set that has an Henry rookie in it. And this set, at least from what I found in the vintage Discord, again, link down below to that, get tons of good info there. This is more pre-modern, but there's knowledge to be gained there. Someone said that a lot of, I don't know if it was sealed boxes or sets of this were sort of hitting the market, so hence why a lot of high grades have been coming to market. And we've seen that with the Henrys. There's been lots of them. Also a lot of PSA 10s of the other star players of the time. Guardiola being more of a star manager of this time, at least for the most part, not of late, huh? But yeah, an okay price there. Again, 8 watchers, not all too many. Next to it, we have a 1938 Koenig. This is an SGC 3 of the Italian team with Miazza. This goes for $105. I've seen people debate if that's Miazza or not. I think the conclusion is that it is, but $105 isn't a crazy price there, considering what some PSA 3s have done recently. I think that's been closer to like $200 at times. But not a terrible price. I've seen them go about as low as this before. So another Weston McKennie here. Again, felt like that was a decent price. Next to the McKennie, we have a 2016 Noir Clint Dempsey out of 10. This is the Country Gold. That goes for $108. Not a crazy high price. It wasn't something that I actually saw in the first go through, so I don't know necessarily where this has been in the past, but 110 doesn't feel light nor strong considering the era and the on-card auto nature of it. Out of 10 as well. George Best PSA 6 goes for $108. This was a little light compared to some of the other ones that I've seen, but also sort of strong. I don't know. There were a couple best offer / bin sales that had gone last month for $200 to $300, but before that, this was going for less than $60 to $70 at times in this grade. Now, I think that's just variance, but ultimately, hard to trust sometimes when there's 2 best offers. It's tricky because on eBay, I do think a lot of things, or at least things that are more appealing to overseas buyers, can fall through the cracks on PWCC because this is, for them, it's got to be like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. at times, so they're not up for these auctions. They're not looking, so maybe they go over on eBay, buy something for what seems like a fair price. Meanwhile, on PWCC, stuff could be falling cheap. Not sure if this falls into that category, but not all that expensive for something with 30 watchers on it. This row, nothing too crazy. We got an Erling Haaland out of 10 gold there from Select that goes for $112. 1975 Topps Kevin Keegan. At first when I saw this, I thought this was like a reproduction from a modern day set, but actually this is vintage. It looks really good. That's like classic Topps type of stuff there. Okay, 1975 Topps Kevin Keegan. That's really cool. PSA 5 goes for $115 there. Pop 1 of 1, none higher. Graded a pretty decent time ago. Not that people are probably sending that in droves, but okay price and a really cool looking card. PSA 8 Messi goes for $117. This is the Este second year. A rookie Este 8 probably goes for like $1,500. Usually second years are around a tenth of the price, so this is in that ballpark. We have an Erling Haaland out of 50 Stadium Club Chrome, along with another Erling Haaland here with Marco Reus. That being a rookie, not one that I've seen all too much. Obviously it's a dual card. It's not really your classic rookie, but it hasn't been one that I've really ever seen, to be honest. 78 Zico here, PSA 8 goes for $126. Decided to look that up because why not? We don't see them all too often. It's a pretty cool sticker there. This PSA 8 goes for $126. Prior, we had a PSA 5 for $50, a PSA 3.5 for $60. So sort of depends basically what you're looking at here in terms of auctions versus best offers. Best offers almost always going to do more. more. The last auction was $115 in June. This one goes for $125. There were sales last year, maybe a couple years prior, for closer to $200-300. So it is down, but it's not, disastrously down. This Tyler Adams, this is a 1010. Okay, I guess that's why this got the premium it did. It felt high to me at the time, but I guess the 1010 is going to do that. 126 there. This is not a rookie, but it's, one of his better early products. Lewandowski 2008 PSA 7 goes for $132. We have a Christian Pulisic 2016 Select Multicolor, goes for $132 there. Kylian Mbappe Adrenaline 2017 goes for $140. And then finally on the first page here, we have a Fermin Lopez out of 10 rookie that goes for $138. We have a raw Messi Mega Cracks that goes for $140. This struck me as kind of low compared to another one we'll see in a second, but this all comes down to condition, so maybe it's justified in that sense. And then we have a 97 Trezeguet PSA 9 that goes for $138. On to page 3 here, starting at $138 and waiting for the pictures to load. We have a Pele rookie, but it's a rookie from a set with a lot of in-action photos. That goes for $140. We have a Van Nistelrooy SGC 7 that went for $144. Looked that up because we don't see them all that often. And when we do, we don't really look them up. So we have an SGC 7 that went for $144. Last PSA 6 did $168, so a little bit lower on the SGC. Personally, I'd take an SGC in a +1 grade of a sticker for sure, for a lesser price. I mean, to me, that seems like a good deal. SGC 6 prior did $93, so I mean, it's a lower price. PSA 7 did $252, definitely lower, but not, shockingly low. Above that, we have a couple reds here, an out of 10 Erling Haaland, along with an out of 25 Weston McKennie. I thought this was a good price as well. Again, 7 Watchers goes for $150 nearly on a PSA 9. These are a little thicker of cards, so they're not as easy to grade, but at the same time, it's still 9. Kylian Mbappe patch out of 10 goes for $150. Row above that, nothing too crazy in here that I want to talk about. I'd like to talk about stuff like this, but I literally just looked at the Haaland. I thought this was at least a red finest, so maybe I could make sense of it. It's actually a red-black Vaporwave finest, which, man, that's a tough sell for me, and trying to parse through a lot of modern to figure out what the best of the best is can be tricky. For me, I'm down to just a couple sets that I would care about, and beyond that, it's almost nothing to me. Above that, 92 Zidane, that says rookie, not a rookie. BGS 5.5 goes for $162. Look that one up. Pre-modern, you don't see it all too often. We'll see it a couple times here and there. What I did find interesting was a 5.5 had recently sold sort of near what was quoted as the bottom of soccer in 2022 World Cup. That was $342 at the time. Now it's down to $162, so down more than 50% from the World Cup of 2022. And I think there's a pretty key distinction here, which is that a lot of modern and pre-modern, at least notable stars, seem to have bottomed around 2022. I think that some of the pre-modern and vintage guys have bottomed a bit later. Some haven't bottomed yet because those guys boomed later, so I think that's what we're seeing there. One thing I will add is that I've always sort of worried with this type of stuff, because if you go back, I mean, the oldest sales you can find in Card Ladder are 2021, and they're pretty pricey. I mean, a 4 for $444. There's a reason that none were graded and sold before that, and that's because they weren't all that desired. I guess I only have certain grades here. If we go back and I just look at all-time sales, yeah, I mean, we have some here in September of 2020. Pretty good price there, $1,800 for a 9.5. But that's still sort of during the first soccer boom, so there is some momentum behind it. And as you can see, I mean, that was the only sale within the first year and a half that people were into soccer. In a large way, obviously, there were people here before that. Elsewhere in this row, I can't speak too much on the middle sticker, but we have a 68 Vanderhoek Cruyff that goes for $168 and a 2.5. That's a fairly low price compared to what I would expect for a 2.5, especially with an eye peel sticker. I think that was a decent deal compared to, some ones we've seen go in the past. Not going to take should I take a look? I don't know. They're always just so hard to parse through. I mean, that one's pretty clearly stuck. You can see all the sort of stains and whatnot, a little bit of paper loss. But again, not terrible. Probably presents good on the front. Seemingly does so from here. Row above that, we have the green 2004 Messi, which was a little bit higher than the blue. Sort of surprised me. We have the 4 Club and Country Thierry Henry. This is the country one in a PSA 10. And then we have a hollow Pulisic in a 9.5 that goes for $170. These always sort of impress me in terms of what numbers they do. Not my cup of tea, but I do like them. I respect them. I think the Donruss debut is kind of cool. Not that Donruss carries all that much weight in other rookie products, but at the time, kind of was what it was. Above that, a 53 Di Stefano PSA 1 of a, again, it says rookie. This is nowhere near a rookie. I don't know who makes the decisions on rookies, or if they just let people change that for what. This is nowhere near a rookie. Like, I can understand sometimes you can make a mistake. That's nowhere near. Anywho, goes for 174, pop 1 to 3, 4 higher. You do see these, around here and there. They usually get a pretty good price. There will be one later in the auction that does as well. We have a 58 Santos Pele team rookie that goes for 180, pop 1 to 4, just 2 higher. We have a 95 silver Kylian Mbappe that goes for 180. Recently made an Instagram post talking about how the Mbappe base PSA 10s are back to 2019 pricing. The silvers are still holding up a bit better, but I think that, at least in my personal opinion, it's sort of a matter of time for the silvers as well, and we'll see where the colors play out. But with the way Mbappe is playing at the moment, seemingly not going to be a good run in terms of his cards, or maybe this is the best time to buy it. Depends how you view it. And then finally, the whites, the highest. I didn't even notice this. The white 2004 goes for the most out of all of them, which is very surprising. Again, that's typically the cheapest, and the blue is usually the most expensive, so vice versa here. Don't know what that's about. We have an Arteta rookie, which, with the way they use rookie, I'm just not even going to read into it. Anyways, PSA 9 goes for 192. Seems like a pretty good price considering what Ronaldinho's do from the set, so would make me think there's something to that, but when you throw around rookie all the time, it's hard to tell. Then we have a 2015 flawless top of the class Clint Dempsey. This goes for nearly 200, which is about what it does. Some of the higher numbers, the out of 10 is done a little lower. The last time a gold sold, which I did buy, I bought for a little more than this, so it seemed like right in the spot that it probably should have been. An 8.5/10 grade is not bad, not great. I mean, for flawless, it's probably good, but I don't think it gets you much of a premium. 78 Maradona crack. This goes for just a little under 200, which to me is a pretty good price. Now, it was sort of a beat-up copy, but the colors weren't bad. Obviously, the centering is really bad, but, it is what it is. The back was a little rough, but, for under 200, it's probably going to be. 2017 Topps Chrome Kylian Mbappe. It's still at 200 there on that base card, which I guess is kind of impressive in the other way. I don't know, that's really weird. The I saw a picture recently where the blue Chrome Mbappe PSA 10, I think it was PSA 10, don't quote me on it, but it was selling same grade for half the price as the 2018 Prism Blue. So both of them kind of color match. I mean, the blue goes a little bit better with the World Cup Prism, but the World Cup Prism Blue was double the Topps Chrome Blue. Meanwhile, the Topps Chrome base card is like 5 times the PSA 10 2018 base. So I don't get the multiples. I don't know what that's all about. To me, this still seems high at 200 if, the blue PSA 10's 2K. Obviously got silver, purple in between there, but yeah, interesting to see. This PSA 8 R9 seems like a little bit lower of a price than we've seen lately, but a lot of these have been going. We've always sort of seen them here and there, but I feel like we see them basically every week at this point. I don't know if that's another spell of grades coming out to market or what it is, but on page 2, moving on up, we have a silver Lionel Messi Finest Idols from 2023, goes for 204. A Garnacho rookie out of 10 Optic goes for 210. This Lewandowski PSA 9, took a peek at that since it was the only Kaboom in here and just wanted to give Kaboom some airtime. PSA 9, as we can see, just looking back throughout this year, the last sales were 270, 270, 260, 250, and then there's some PSA 8s in here that kind of throw off the data a little bit, but I guess there was a 9 back here for 188, so it's not the lowest price we've seen. I will say I think this is a really sort of weird-looking photo. I don't think it does Lewandowski any favors, but Kabooms are always pretty sought after, and this one seemingly still goes for an okay price, obviously down from the last couple, but some of those were, auctions, best offers. No shield sales, I don't think, in here, at least, any usernames on eBay that stick out to me. Moving on up, we have a Pele Leaf Auto for 222. Cristiano Ronaldo Gold out of 10 that goes for 228. Not a crazy price, obviously, it's Mosaic, and it's also Juve kit, and I get it, but in terms of Ronaldo, I mean, it's not bad. Peroteo 1945 PSA 1 goes for 234. Pretty cool to see that one go. Pele Stamp Auto, we see this a decent amount. PSA 6 Monday Chromo at 250 didn't strike me as a crazy price. I mean, when people are buying, raw Mega Cracks team set cards for almost 180 for the less desired version, I think a PSA 6 Monday Chromo is probably a better buy at that price point. Of course, just me. It is really off-center, and Monday Chromo isn't the highest quality, of course, but in terms of Messi rookies and what I see go for 250, doesn't seem terrible. I don't think it's insanely cheap either, but, for the price point, it seems to make sense. Alternatively, next to it, you have a Red Wave 2022 Merlin Chrome that goes for $276 in a PSA 10. It's actually a PSA 8, probably explains the price a little bit more. Above that, Weston McKennie coming in at $300 for this PSA 9 Red Topps Chrome Bundesliga. It goes for $300. Decent price there on that one. Didn't look at comps, but feels okay. At least to me, I've seen, maybe his Gold Optics do a little bit more at times, and to me, the Gold Optics is a superior card. To each their own, of course, but I do like this one still. $300 here on this Leaf Messi Kaka patch goes for 300. 1959 Saddam John Charles PSA 4 goes for 300 here. Took a look at that and could only find one comp, which was last year for a CSG 3.5. Now, CSG, most people say, is at least a grade, maybe 2 less than PSA. If you assume that sort of makes sense, the price discrepancy, I still think it's pretty strong. I mean, $44 to $300. Now, this is a really nice looking copy, don't get me wrong, but seems like a decent grading premium on that. You also don't see it sell all too often, so maybe someone just wanted it, or more than a few people at that. Above that, this authentic Alter red and black back Pele struck me as a bit high. I don't know if someone has plans to maybe crack that out, send it elsewhere, but I've seen red blues in a 1 go for, maybe 500-ish, around there, something like that. So 312 for a more common authentic Alter doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Could totally be missing something. We have Cristiano Ronaldo patch here out of 7 that goes for 336. Pretty cool there that's out of 7. Leo auto here from 2013 Icons. I always am just so skeptical of the on-card autos that weren't witnessed to me. Especially as you get closer to modern day, I think it's going to be incredibly hard for someone to tell. I mean, there are guys at this point that just have little loops, or how would you be able to tell is Zidane a real auto from a fake when it's just a line in a circle? I don't get it. Obviously, Messi has more going on, but I still, you're putting a lot of trust in graders for that, and it's obviously not that, and it's just not that great looking. I know it's a cool moment and all that, but it's just silver ink over, a large part of the card. We have the other Arga from 1953 Di Stefano PSA 2 that goes for 350 here with 47 watchers. 2004 PSA 7.5, you don't see that a lot, but that's a Mega Cracks team set Campio 62 that goes for 360. And out of 10, Cristiano Ronaldo gold for 360 there from Select 2022. Then we got the 1961 Pentagonal Pele, this in SGC 1.5 goes for 372. Pretty cool looking photo there. 1979 PSA 3 Maradona goes for 400. I don't know what that is in regards to comps, but it feels strong to me because I know generally, there have been middle grades, maybe high middle grades lingering at around 1,000 or so. So to have a 3 holding pretty steady at 400 with 50 watchers is a good sign, I would say. 2018 Treble Vinny, this one has taken quite the fall. This goes for 420, the purple out of 49. Took a peek at that just to sort of see the fall off here. And actually, I thought both of the cards that we're going to see would have fallen, but not quite the case. So this treble more so. This BGS 9 went for 420. I don't know if it was the same BGS 9. I think it was, but we can actually find that same one selling somewhat recently. It's right here. That was 1,100 there on that one. 14,065, 14,065. So yeah, I think those are the exact same slabs. This one 420, originally bought at 11 to 1,200. Last PSA 9 just sold a month and a half ago for 1,100. So yeah, it's been quite the fall from grace here. Obviously, Vinny not winning the Ballon d'Or, pretty big deal. Real Madrid also not starting off the season well, not going to fare well at all. But as you'll see, if we look at another card here in a second, it's not as bad, which I find to be kind of interesting. This Mo Salah orange goes for 456, which originally when I thought about it, I was like, oh, that's strong. And then you think about it a little longer and you're like, well, every Liverpool sale is going to be somewhat strong. So comparatively, probably fair. Beyond that, we have a 2020 gold Musiala that goes in a PSA 10 for 468. And then a Koenig Sindelar that goes for 500. Again, a grade probably 2 deduction typically from CSG to PSA. If you assume that, this is maybe a 4.5, maybe a 4. And those have typically gone for around 500 with the Ramona back. So that is about where you'd expect it to be if you do all the maths. And then finally, we'll go to the first page here. Starting off, we have a BGS 82 Maradona 8.5 that goes for $500 next to a PSA 2 from 78 Crack. This is the caricature with an IPL sticker that goes for $504. Feels like a decent price. Now, of course, this is the caricature, and we saw the original 78 Crack, the more portrait-like photo, that went for like $200 in a 1. So, doing 2.5 times the price of the 1 for a PSA 2 with an IPL is a pretty impressive sale, considering I think most people prefer the typical 78 Crack to this caricature. I like them both, but nonetheless, I think that this was a decent sale. 2018 Red Velocity Vinny, this out of 50 goes for $504 in a PSA 9. That's the other one I looked up, and in terms of his recent comps, we have here a sale for $504 to start us. The last sale was $1,500, but this is Murozond, and of course there's 4 different comps there, so take what you will. Let's just say the lowest price, which is $1,500. Before that, PSA 10, $1,100. Before that, $500, $800, $900 for a 9.5. And so ultimately, this actually seems kind of in line. I mean, when 10s are doing 1,000, maybe 1,500 if it's chilled, a 9 doing 500 is kind of right in line. So I was surprised to see that this is basically doing the same exact price. Me personally, I am a 2018 Optic guy. I like it personally. Obviously, there's a lot of USMNT players in there. I also like the set in terms of the display. The design is very typical to what you see in American cards. I also love the Rated Rookie logo. I personally like it a lot. I can see why it's holding, but I do think that was sort of an impressive price considering what's going on with something like the Treble. Above that, PSA 7, this Messy Mega Cracks goes for over 500. There's been times where we've seen 8s go below this, so this is a pretty strong price for a 7 going at 516 there. It is the Campio, which is a little more rare, but, not a huge premium at this point in time, if any at all. We then have a Griezmann 2022 Immaculate 1 of 1 that goes for 600 next to a PSA 8 Maradona from 82 that goes for 630. Found that to be a pretty comparable price actually to the 8.5, which you wouldn't quite expect. Typically, PSA stickers get a huge premium. And in this example, they do get a premium. I mean, it's a half grade lower and it goes for $130 more, so don't get me wrong, there is some premium baked in, but given the fakes BGS is graded, the waviness that you sometimes get in their stickers, there's a lot of sort of downfalls to BGS beyond BGS themselves, which makes it sort of interesting. This is more recently graded than I would like personally, but at the same time, I'm not going to say that it's fake or anything like that because I have no intel on it, but it would be an era of BGS grading that I would be moderately nervous about. I mean, generally it looks pretty good. I mean, the back doesn't look all too white. It's got a lot of these sort of pieces of paper flaking off the side. So, to me, it doesn't look like this is someone trying to send in fakes, but it's always better to probably be cautious around this type of stuff. Nonetheless, this actually was a low price. I think I looked it up if I do remember correctly. So yeah, PSA 8 here. Last ones have gone for $930, $475, and $960. So compared to some of the higher sales, this is pretty low, but compared to some of the lower sales, this is actually doing fairly okay. So depends how you want to look at it. It's within the range of what you would expect. This row, Modern Goats galore. We have a 2015 tie-dye, Cristiano Ronaldo out of 30, 9.5 there. I think that, I didn't quite see. Is that a Gem Plus? No, it's a Min Gem with a 9 on edges there. It goes for $720. We have a PSA 9 next to it that goes for $750. That's the closest we've ever seen. I mean, these go for in severely different grades. A PSA 9 white Mega Cracks and a PSA 7 blue. Next to it, we have a World Cup Stars BGS 9.5 Messi that goes for $750. Cool row to be able to take your pick of a few different styles of cards of different grades of the era. Above it, more of the same, just grades of the era hanging out together. Yusufa Moukoko 1 of 1 PSA 10 Superfractor goes for $900 roundabout for his rookie from 2020. We have a 2018 a red Kylian Mbappe that goes for $870. I saw this from far away, and maybe I'm just wrong, I don't know, but we'll look a little closer here. Okay, I mean, I thought the centering was a little off left to right. I think the left is certainly much bigger than the right, so a 9.5 on centering, I was a little iffy on that. Maybe that's why this went a little low. I think 1,000 or under 1,000 is a little low. These have been closer to 1,000, 1,100, something like that, and maybe that's why it is a Min Gem. So I think that personally this is probably closer to a 9 than a 9.5, but nonetheless it's still a decent price. This Christian Pulisic, I'm not quite sure what happened here, but yeah, this had sold, I don't know if it's the same copy, but a gold had sold recently for maybe 300-400, and this one goes for 930, which to me was sort of jarring, but at the same time, there are some excited people around this type of stuff, golds, blacks, all that good stuff, the really scarce, rare, Panini, Prism, whatnot. So I could see why maybe it would pop off to me. Definitely feels high. Obviously didn't partake personally, but I do think it's a cool card. I mean, again, I'm a USMNT guy, so I'm always going to, stand the team here, but that was a pretty cool moment seeing him transfer to Chelsea, having him with that kit, sort of taking the photo like that rather than a typical in-action shot. I mean, to me, it's a cool one, don't get me wrong, but I think 930 was a pretty high price. And then above that, we break into the thousands with a 1.5 Aquarella. Typically, ones used to be about 1,000. Now a 1.5 is around 1,000 for the Aquarella. We have a 2022 Messi Black out of 10 auto. That is a sticker that goes for 1,100, and then a Jamal Musiala Superfractor that goes for 1,560 out of Topps Finest 2021. Interesting to see him do double the price of the Moukoko, both with pretty similar watchers as well. Moukoko, I'm pretty sure now over in League One, so probably on no one's radar for the most part, but of course if you're heavily into the prospecting, still would be. At least to me, the Musiala seems like the better play, but it also costs 60-70% more, so makes sense. And then rounding into the top 9, we have a green and blue Messi rookie here. We have a green 9.5 Campio and a blue PSA 9 Campio. Interesting to see that the BGS actually had more watchers between the two, but doesn't get a higher price. Typically, the blue is more coveted than the green, so I think that adds something here, but, decent bit of a discount for the BGS, which is almost always going to be the case. This 48 crack Schiaffino was one that I had to research again in the Vintage Discord, link down below, always plugging it. But yeah, I was confused because if you go and look at sales, I sorted by all-time high, and this 48 sale went for 2.2. It's taking a second to load, but yeah, 2.2 for this one. Looks good. Typical sort of release you expect out of South America with the pog-shaped style. Then we have the 1950, I don't know if this is Bourget, something like that, Bourget. This goes for, what was it? $840, and that's a really rare set that I've only seen graced by PWCC once with a few miscellaneous players. Some pretty good early cards for different players, stickers, but you get what I'm saying. One for $840 there, so I was just confused because I looked further down and a 1947 actually went for $750, and that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Apparently, the 1947 and 46 releases of him are actually his brother, and so that's been the mistake that has been made here, and why this one goes for a third or a fourth of the price of a card from a year later. Pog, again, you get the idea. I'm just going to use card. It's interchangeable. You get the idea. All that to say, I think this is his rookie despite not seeming that way, so I think that's why this gets such a good price. It didn't seem like a shockingly high nor low sale. From what I could find in the Discord, there was someone selling a couple of these, and at least from what I could tell, this seemed around the price it sold at, and then whoever bought it sold it a few months later, probably to go find something else. But off the little research I did, seemed like a fair price. Above that, we have a couple 71 Bisses along with a 2020 Stadium Club Chrome Neymar. So we took a peek at this last week, of course, as we were just sort of scrolling. Really, really cool one here with the Maradona shirt, of course, coming after Maradona's passing. Really cool photo there. Stadium Club, always known for its imagery and really putting it on display there. So cool to see that at $3,700. I went to look at what Superfractor Neymars have gone for, the highest price ones. And the only one I could find that sold higher was this one. I guess we can look at the other two. This is a Lionel Messi and Neymar auto. That doesn't really count in my mind. This one does sell for more, but this was sort of during the time where this set was a lot more hyped. I'd be interested if it sells for more nowadays. Maybe it would, but this Finest in 2023 did more, and the highest sale that we can find for a Superfractor this year was this one. So seems like a pretty good price, especially for PSA 9, but also when you're buying one of ones. I mean, to me, gray doesn't matter. Of course, gray does matter. People do pay more for 10, so it does matter. But I think it matters less with one of ones. People argue differently. I get it. But if you really like the card, if you really like the imagery, which I do here, I could see why someone would look past that. Now, the 71 Bis is a pretty wide discrepancy here. Now, there is a half grade in between it. It's also PSA BGS, so you sort of get it. But, nearly 4K here on the 7.5 that goes for $3,700. And then about 8,000 here on this PSA 8 that does 8,100. And so I looked up the PSA 8 because I think most people just care about PSA pricing. It's also easier, more digestible, considering how basically they're all the same. There's no half grades, all that good stuff. But if we look over the last 2 years at the 71 Bis and sort of see where it's gone, actually would appear, I guess if we go all time, you'll even see it better. The lowest price ever, or at least since the boom, since, late 2020, the lowest price ever for Messi was during the 2022 World Cup, which is just crazy. Now, of course, they lost early on in a shocking upset in that World Cup, so maybe that played a factor, but at the same time, to think that the lowest price you could have gotten Messi at was during the World Cup run is pretty crazy. Now, of course, him winning it surely helps, but at the end of the day, he was going to be in the GOAT conversation, if not at the top of a lot of people's list anyways. Sure, this helps a little bit. I do get that. But at the same time, I think that this is a good sign for soccer, broadly speaking. Just because a 71 Bis goes up in price doesn't mean that your, insert prospect is going up in price. That's not how that works. But I'd rather see the 71 Bis going up than down, generally speaking, if you're looking at the sustainability and growth of soccer going forward. PSA 8, there were some conversations and curiosities, and myself included, in terms of if this was going to keep rising or not, because it actually had been, closer to 5,800 to 6,200 for a good while, and sort of fell down in June to 5,400 here, and then went on a pretty big rise up to 7,800. That was an interesting sale. Sort of came back a couple times, so you're like, oh, okay, is it going to stay? Is it not? And it's seemingly gone back up. So 8,100 is where we're at, and that has been one of, if not the highest sale over basically the last 2 years since the fall down from 2021 pricing. So a good sign there, just generally, I think, unless you're someone wanting to buy these, then probably not. And then the top row, the top three here, a couple Messis and a Jim Brown. You love to see it. So 2004 71 Bis, BGS 9 goes for 8,400. Take your pick, BGS 9, PSA 8. BGS 9, albeit with no subgrades, which is even scarier. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's always tricky. If you're going to do this type of stuff, if you're going to buy BGS and cross it or even just keep it, you probably should be pretty knowledgeable and look very in-depth at everything on the card. I would always look for the measurements on the card, try to pair it up with others, see if it's trimmed. I think that is the biggest concern with a lot of people for BGS slabs, beyond just being potentially overgraded, but being overgraded in the sense that it might be trimmed, and you could have a really bad day if you send that to PSA. And then finally, top of this one, at least in terms of soccer, we have a Topps Dynasty Lionel Messi out of 5 that goes for $9,300 here. You know, not a crazy sale, at least from what I've seen, just generally. The box price, or I guess the case price, has been close to $10K, if not above. So to think you could hit an out of 5 Messi from the case, and you know, you'd make a little bit of money given everything else, but altogether, minus fees and whatnot, you might lose money, is sort of a shocking result there. You could talk this one down a little bit. I mean, it's not the best patch for sure. You see this patch, you don't think Barca, and he also did sign off of the card, so I think both of those play a factor, especially on this type of high-end stuff. But yeah, ultimately, didn't strike me as a crazy high sale, but still cool to see it go and top the weekly nonetheless. Now we'll take a peek at next week and see what we got going on. So this Miazza from 1927 is leading the way, needless to say, at 13,070 watchers, which is huge for vintage soccer. Next to that, we have a pretty cool pre-war French piece here with Diagne and a PSA 4. It's a team photo, not one that I'm all too familiar with, but names that I've seen before, and already a pretty good price. Not as high on the watchers there, but French pre-war is a bit more niche for sure than Italian pre-war. Still a really fine price. 1,500 here on this Ronaldo out of 10, PSA 10, Premier Field Level. That is quite the stunner, if I do say so myself. Moving beyond that, PSA 4 here of this Pele Vav, that is at 500 already. We have a PSA 8 Maradona Calciatore. This Pele Aquarella sign, that's a pretty cool one with the pen signature there. 1/1 Arda Güler. Lionel Messi Eminence, tons of good stuff in this next weekly. We sort of had the question a couple weeks ago, or at least, you know, I internalized the question of, are the weeklies maybe a little dead after a couple bad weeks? And seemingly not the case. This looks like a pretty big one, so hopefully there's something you like in there, and we'll see how they do next week. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Of course, if you did, again, make sure to leave a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. Anything you want to tell me, something you thought sold high, low, maybe something you snagged, would love to see in a comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.